Hey people, what I have for you today, I wanted to read you a letter. Some of you know that one of my kind of side hobbies and obsessions is Vincent Van Gogh, and so one of the things I've enjoyed doing over the years is reading his letters. We have this amazing collection of letters, mostly that he wrote to his brother Theo. This is one of the more attractive collections of his letters, and I picked one out for us to read that's dated March 23rd, 1877, which is almost exactly 143 years ago to the day. Important thing to know before I read the letter is something that a lot of people don't know about Vincent van Gogh is that he had a period of his life where he was really intensely religious. He actually, his father was a pastor, and he spent several years of his life planning to do the same. He wanted to kind of be in the family business and wanted to be a pastor, and went so far as to enrolling in seminary. And as Vincent did with lots of other things in his life, he was very obsessive about it. And so he read the Bible obsessively for these few years. And so this is a letter from that period, long before he kind of started painting. He was always kind of a drawer and things like that, but this is long before he ever started painting. So here's the letter from Dordrecht, the 23rd of March, 1877. This is to Theo, his brother. My dear Theo, I want to make sure you receive a letter while you're on your trip. What a good day we spent together in Amsterdam recently. I stood there watching the train you left, and as long as it was still in sight. We're such old friends, aren't we? How long we have walked together, starting in the black fields with the young green wheat at Zundert, where we heard the lark at this time of year with Paul. The print that you gave to me of Heaven and Earth Shall Pass Away, but My Words Shall Not Pass Away, that's the title, and the portrait of the Reverend Heldring. They are already hanging in my room, and oh, I am so glad to have them. They give me hope. I'm writing to you offhand about my plans. My idea becomes clear and firm in so doing. For the time being, I'm thinking of the words, "It is my portion to keep thy word." I have such a desire to familiarize myself with the treasure of biblical scripture, to know all those old stories thoroughly and lovingly, especially to learn what we know about Christ. In our family, which is indeed a Christian family in the full sense of the word, there has always been a minister of the gospel as far back as one can see, from generation to generation. Why should that voice not be heard in this and in following generations? Why should a member of that family not now feel himself called to that office and think with some reason that he can and must declare himself and seek the means to achieve that goal? It is my prayer and deepest desire that the spirit of my father and grandfather may rest upon me, and that it may be given to me to be a Christian and a Christian laborer, that my life may resemble that of them whom I name. The more, the better. For behold, that old wine is good, and I desire not the new. Their God shall be my God, and their people my people, that this may be my portion, to know Christ in his full worth, and to be constrained by his love. What that love is so beautifully said in the words of St. Paul, when he says, as sorrowful, yet always rejoicing. That's from 1 Corinthians 13. It also says, it beareth all things, love, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things, it never faileth. It is in my heart today. Those words of the pilgrims going to Emmaus when evening was come and the sun had gone down. But they constrained him, saying, abide with us. You'll like that phrase too, that sorrowful yet always rejoicing. Keep it in mind, because they are good words and a good cloak in the storm of life. Keep it in mind at this time, now that you've experienced so much lately, and be careful Because even though it's no small thing that you've experienced, yet if I see rightly, there is something greater in store. And you too will remember the words of the Lord, I have loved thee with an everlasting love. I will comfort you as one whom his mother comforteth. I shall send you another comforter, even the Spirit of truth. I will make a new covenant with you. Be separate, and touch not the unclean thing. I will be your God, and you shall be my people. I will be a father unto you, and you shall be my sons and daughters. There is something better than the glory of worldly things. It is the feeling we get when our hearts burn within us upon hearing his word. It is faith in God, the love of Christ, faith in immortality, in a life after this life. Hold fast to what you have. Theo, old boy, brother, whom I love. I have such a great longing for that thing which you know of, but how shall I ever get it? How I wish that I, like Paul, had already done a lot of the difficult work of a Christian laborer and minister of the gospel and sower of the word. You see, Paul can count his services and Bible readings and visits to the sick and the poor and his written sermons by the thousands, and still he doesn't look bad, but just goes on doing good. Lift up your eyes for me, and pray that it may be given to me just as I now do for you. May he give you the desires of thine heart. He who knows us better than we know ourselves, and who is able to do above all that we ask or think. For his ways are higher than our ways, and his thoughts are higher than our thoughts, as high as the heaven is above the earth. And may you continue to think of Christ as a comforter and God as a refuge. I wish you well on your trip. Write soon, and accept a handshake in thought. Adieu, and believe me ever, your loving brother, Vincent. There's a couple things that I really love about that letter. To end it, he ends a lot of his letters this way. He says, a handshake in thought. That seems to be particularly appropriate for this moment right now, when we're not to be physically shaking hands. So accept my handshake in thought, in the spirit of Vincent today. But a couple other things. I mean, you can tell that whoever wrote this letter is completely obsessed with the Bible, because he even slips occasionally into kind of King James language. And the whole letter is just littered with scriptural kind of quotations and allusions. It's kind of this weaving together of, my people, your God shall be my God, and your people shall be my people. That's from Ruth. And then he transitions straight from there into 1 Corinthians 13. And then he's quoting all kinds of sections of the Bible, just kind of effortlessly weaving them together. And that comes only when we spend a lot of time reading the Bible. This is actually what the service of morning prayer is intended to do, which is something we're spending a lot doing together these days. Morning prayer is a service that's just almost all scripture. And the idea is that not only is it good for us to hear scripture, it's good for us to respond to scripture with other words from scripture. That's why the rhythms of that service go back and forth between us hearing readings and then us responding by saying other words from the Bible. The point is that eventually the vocabulary of scripture starts to kind of infect your own vocabulary, so that when you speak, you almost speak inside of a kind of scriptural register. And so I'm just amazed at how deeply it's kind of sunken into his imagination. And then the other thing is that phrase, sorrowful yet always rejoicing, that actually becomes Vincent van Gogh's kind of personal kind of creedal statement. He carries that phrase with him throughout his life, and he references it always, even well beyond when he kind of puts his dreams of being a pastor on hold, or when he casts this aside to become an artist. That phrase kind of sticks with him, and he uses it to understand his own life, to help him cope with the very difficult life that he had. And I think it's a good phrase for us to hold in mind these days too. I mean, for him, sorrow and rejoicing are not things that are in competition with one another. It doesn't sound like. It's not like there's just X amount of space and then it can either be filled up with sorrow or joy, or else it can be 50-50 or something like that. Actually, they both can just exist fully at the same time, and that feels like something that's true for us right now in this moment. There is this kind of bizarre sorrow in the air that we're all kind of swimming through in different ways, but at the same time there's also a lot of joy going on. There's lots of kind of small stories that are playing out inside of this this big story, and the joy that we're experiencing just by being at home with our kids or our pets or whatever it is. It's not like those feelings are not allowed. Those things can just exist at the same time. So I find comfort in that. I hope you find comfort in that, that we can still rejoice in the midst of sorrow, that those things don't have to be in competition with one another. Yeah, well, that's my contribution today to our Pass the Peace project. I commend you to continue to sharing the peace, to passing the peace. We need it now more than ever. It's good for us to be connected, and I look forward to seeing you soon in whatever way we can manage. Peace.